Hi, I'm Ginny Robertson, founder of and publisher of On Purpose Woman magazine and the founder of the On Purpose Woman global community. I'm here with Laurie Morin for a Writer in the Spotlight interview, where I chat with the contributing writers for the current issue of On Purpose Woman magazine. Welcome, Laurie. Happy to be chatting with you today.
Happy to be here, Ginny.
Well, let's start out by telling our viewers a little bit about you.
Sure. So I am a writer and a coach, and my main love is combining my love for writing and my love for travel by leading retreats.
Love for writing and love for travel.
Mhm.
I love that. I love that. You wrote an article for the May-June issue called Falling into the Abyss. And you sent this out as a blog post, and I read it and I so resonated with it. I asked you if we could actually use it in the magazine. And I want to know what inspired you to write this article.
Well, I was thinking, so I write a newsletter and I always share just what's on the top of my mind and figure if I'm thinking about it, it will be relevant to some of the people who read my newsletter. So I was thinking about how some of the times in my life that were supposed to be the happiest, for example, getting a huge promotion at work, turned out to just throw me into a spiral. And I never really understood why until I read this book by Maureen Murdoch called Heroine's Journey. And she describes how for women, our life journey is a little bit different because if you were brought up in my generation, the rewards were all in the so-called masculine world. So if you wanted to deviate from your path as a mom and a homemaker, and you wanted to do something outside of that, you had to kind of go over into that masculine world. And sometimes the thing that you want the most in that masculine world is really kind of out of alignment with who you are. So, for example, I took a promotion that put me in a management position where I actually had to exert control and power over people. And I absolutely hated it. And, it was prestigious, it had more money, but I hated doing it. And I thought, I think this happens to so many women who are out there in the world, either in professions or even as entrepreneurs. I'll give you a small example. I thought that running courses on writing would be a good business for me because I'm good at teaching, I'm good at writing. So why not do that? And I started doing it, and I actually do love doing it. However, it's out of alignment with my real goal, which is to finish a couple books I'm working on.
Okay.
So what was supposed to be a great experience kind of turned into a not so great experience. And it was all because I really didn't think through what was important to me at that particular time.
Oh, you said so many great things there. So how did you know that it was out of alignment? You were feeling, I remember in the article, you talked about getting that promotion, and I think your partner threw a big party for you or something, a celebration. All these people were there,
right,
and you should be feeling really like on top of it all.
Mm-hmm.
And you were feeling like kind of sunken. It felt like you were just kind of like,
right.
What other ways, like for the writing course, how did you know, and how long did it take you to know that this wasn't for you?
I believe in the mind-body connection. It usually starts in my body. When something's supposed to be fun and I get this pit in my stomach, like, oh, I really don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Then I know that something's out of alignment. I don't always know what it is. So sometimes it takes me a while to figure out, especially if, it's mixed, because for the teaching, for example, I actually really love it. I loved helping my students. But the pit in my stomach was over on my other desk. I had this pile of things I wanted to write and I wasn't getting to it. So, I think one of the things that I like to talk to people about is our priorities change all the time. And just because we love teaching doesn't mean that right now is a time that's a good time to go out and start a course. Just because I love writing doesn't mean I should spend the rest of my life sitting in a dark room all by myself writing, because I wouldn't like that either.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a matter of, really knowing where you are in the flow and staying in touch with your intuition about what you need at a particular moment.
Oh, it's so important. And when you talked about, well, you mentioned earlier, I think Maureen Murdoch had written this book called what was the name of the book again?
Yes, The Heroine's Journey.
Okay, The Heroine's Journey.
Mm-hmm.
And you've been interested in this topic of, you've written a book called The Shero's Journey, correct? Is that the right name?
Yes, it is.
And so you've been interested in this topic for a while, and I'm a fan of Joseph Campbell.
Right.
And so it's another reason it resonated with me, but I was always wondering where the heroine's journeys were. He never wrote about those, right?
No, he didn't.
And we had our own. And I love that whole idea of, the beginning and, the quest and all of that. But what fascinated me so much about your writing is that you talked about how our desires and our search for the quest are different. And you alluded to that some with your life. So why do you think that is? I mean, was it just that only men? There were other women out there having adventures and going on quests.
Yes, absolutely.
For millennia, right? Forever.
Absolutely.
But why do you think we only learned about the hero's journey?
Well, I think Joseph Campbell was a man of his time.
Yeah, that's true.
Maureen Murdoch was actually one of his students. And she went to him and said, this is great, but what about women? And he said, women don't need a quest because they're already there. And she was like, no, that is not acceptable. And that's why she had to go kind of figure out her own way of describing this journey. And
what do you think he meant by that?
He meant, that romantic notion of woman as being perfect, the perfect mother, wife, they don't need anything else because they're already there. That's what he meant.
Well, that kind of takes my breath away a little bit. Like, yeah, it's not surprising. Like you said, he was
right.
He was an amazing person, but he was a man of his time as well.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And so it's good that she jumped onto that.
It was. So we don't need to follow our bliss because we already have it. That's
wow. Yeah.
I
wasn't aware of that before then. Were you?
No, I wasn't.
Well, I love
but the thing is, the way she describes it, it's really not a male-female thing. It's an energy thing. It's a masculine energy and feminine energy.
Right. That makes more sense.
Yeah, we all want both. We want to be balanced. So we want the courage and the autonomy and the power sometimes, but we also want the love and the compassion and the relationships. And the world was set up for the masculine energy and not the feminine energy. So her point is sometimes when women kind of navigate over into that world, they're disappointed because they lose parts of themselves. And that's what the abyss is. It's losing a part of yourself.
Because when we get there, we don't know how to navigate.
Right.
And I'm speaking from personal experience of being in that masculine world of corporate finance and thinking I had to leave the feminine pieces behind to survive, to actually make it, because making it was important,
Right.
So, but that philosophy or that idea has hurt men as well.
Absolutely.
In many ways too.
I think it, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say, I do think it's shifting, even in the corporate world.
I do too. I do too.
Thank God.
I think I love the article, right? I love the writing, but I also really enjoyed how you used a story to kind of really explain what you mean by this. And you talked about the Wonder Woman movie. So I would love for you to tell us about that. And I think this is a great example if anybody's a little confused about, well, what's she really talking about here? It's such a great example.
Yes.
So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so Wonder Woman, and I'm talking now about the latest movie version because there have been many. I remember the first version of Wonder Woman on TV came out when I was a teenager. And that was a little bit different. But in this version of Wonder Woman, she still grew up on an island with only women, and she was trained in the masculine arts of war. So she was very skilled at using weapons and using the tools of her mind as well, because their whole mission was to overcome the warlord fairies. And what happened to Princess Diana, as she was known then, was this really hunky pilot came crashing down onto the island and told her about an adventure, a battle that was taking place in the United States and in Europe during World War II. And she felt called. So this was the traditional hero's journey. She felt called to go and help win the war and overcome evil. And she did that. And, she won a lot of battles. She overcame a warlord. But in the process, Steve, who was the handsome prince, lost his life intentionally. He did a suicide maneuver to help her win. And she got to the end of the war and realized two things. She realized there's always going to be evil in the world. It's never going to totally go away. And she also realized that victory is kind of hollow if you don't also have the love and the compassion. So at the end of the movie, she vows to continue to try to change the world, but to do it through love.
Yeah, I think that says it all, because she was given these masculine traits, these masculine tools, if you will, and that's all she knew.
Right.
I guess, or that was her identity in many ways.
It was.
I think that's why even the original Wonder Woman, why I know girls like me, we just thought she was so, because we never saw women doing things like that before.
Exactly.
It's kind of too bad they had to sex her up so much, with the costumes and all of that. But we never saw women doing, her magic lasso and just her cuffs and just that power. It was more about the power that she exuded and that she got stuff done,
Exactly.
And so
her creator was a male, but he was a big part of the feminist movement.
Yeah, I do remember reading that. Yeah, that was really interesting when I found that out. So let's just wrap this up then by what's your final thoughts on this whole topic? How can we be more aware, I guess, of when we're stepping into the abyss, and what can we kind of do about that?
Yeah. I mean, it's really ideal if you can avoid stepping into it. And, I think it's really hard to do this all the time, but staying in touch with your intuition, with your priorities, with who you really are and what's really important to you is the best thing that we can do to live our best life, to follow our bliss, as Joseph Campbell would say.
Yeah.
And people do that in different ways. I do journaling because I love to write, and so that helps me stay connected. But there are a lot. You can do meditation, you can do qigong, you can do anything that kind of connects your mind, your heart, and the rest of your body, so that you stay connected.
Yeah, great advice. Thank you. And when something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't right. We have to really, I think a lot of us still need to learn to trust that more.
Absolutely.
To know that and not go around asking everybody else what they think, right?
Absolutely.
Trust our own intuition, our gut, if you will.
Oh, yeah, that's the worst thing you can do is say, everybody says, oh, this is great. You'd be perfect at it. What an honor. Yeah, but what's that little voice inside saying?
Yeah. That's how I got every promotion I ever got back in the corporate world is, oh, you've been so great at this. We want you Okay. What are we going to say,
Right.
right? Okay, thank you.
If it'll
Yes,
make you happy, I'll do it.
exactly. That's really it. I don't think
Mhm.
I didn't make a conscious decision about my career until I quit. That was
Yes.
my first real conscious decision, you know.
Yes.
I didn't make a conscious decision about my marriage until I decided to leave it. You know what I mean? So it's
Mhm.
that.
I agree.
And really, I think I had to go through all this thing. So I think probably wasn't a great shortcut for me. I had to feel all that stuff, but I think
Sure.
we could save ourselves maybe some heartache, maybe if we start to trust ourselves more,
Yes.
not wait
I
so
think so
long
too. And
for the value.
that's my hope, is that younger women will read some of this stuff and recognize the patterns. And, you know, yes, when we're young, that is the time to establish our careers,
Mhm.
but what trade-offs are you willing to make?
Right. And I have seen a lot of changes with younger women, younger
Mhm.
men as well, who aren't not going to sell their souls
Absolutely.
for the dollar. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And as long as they're demanding something different, the system has to change as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, well, Laurie, how can people find out more about your work, your writing?
The best way to find me is on my website. And when you get on there, you'll find a link to sign up for my newsletter. And like I said, I send out something about once a week, not really on a regular schedule, but you'll hear from me about once a week. And that's where you'll find out everything that's going on in my world, including retreats that are coming up, other programs.
It's lauriemorin.com, right?
Yes.
That is in the text of this video. And also, I kept referring to it as a blog post. It's a newsletter. Do you have a blog that you just move those
I
things
do
over
have a
to? Or
blog. I do have a blog, and you'll connect to that on my website too.
okay.
I don't post on it all that often because I spend more time sending out the newsletter.
Mhm. I would just repurpose the newsletter over on your blog just to
I
keep
know, I
more
know.
people
I
maybe.
always mean
Yeah.
to do that.
I know so many things that we could do, right? So many
Right,
things.
right.
But yeah, so sign up for Laurie's newsletter and you too can be inspired like I've been on a number of the writings that she's done. So Laurie, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us and your words with us and your time with us. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for everything you do for women through this organization.
You're
It's
so
really
welcome.
amazing.
Thank you. And I want to thank anyone who's watching this live or the replay on our YouTube channel. To read Laurie's article and other inspiration for your mind, your body, your spirit, and your business, visit our website, opwgc.com. And the website link is also in the text of this video.